Welcome back to AM Agenda. Let's go straight now to our panel of politicians. Joining me from Adelaide is the Parliamentary Secretary for Health, Mark Butler, and from Melbourne, the Shadow Parliamentary Secretary for Disabilities, Carers and the Voluntary Sector, Mitch Fifield. Good morning to you both. Mark Butler, I'm going to start with you. What details can you share with us about the aged care announcement we're expecting from the Prime Minister this morning?
Well, morning, Ashley. You're right, the Prime Minister this morning will be announcing a very significant new investment in the aged care sector, which builds on a range of investments that he's announced in the few weeks since he announced the National Health and Hospitals Plan. Now this investment will create about 2,500 new places in residential aged care and in community care for people assessed as needing aged care in Australia. It will also create 2,000 flexible places in hospitals, in public hospitals, for long-stay older patients, dealing with one of the very significant complaints from state public hospital systems about cost shifting between the hospital system and the aged care sector. And lastly, but just as importantly, it will create very new incentives for GPs to deliver up to 105,000 additional procedures in aged care facilities. We know that every year about 27,000 hospital admissions take place because care is not able to be provided by GPs or allied health professionals within an aged care facility, so the facility is left with no choice but to transport the person, the patient or the resident, to a public hospital, and really they don't need to be there if there is able to be GP and primary care delivered in the aged care facility.
Mark,
so this is a very important part of, firstly, delivering more places in residential aged care and community care, but also, as with a number of the other announcements made over the last couple of weeks by the Prime Minister, taking more pressure off our public hospital system.
Why are these announcements being dripped out like they are? Were the premiers told the details of all these announcements at the beginning, or are they just like us, waiting for the next instalment every week? It doesn't seem fair to them that they're just getting these announcements as we go along when the COAG meeting's next Monday.
Well, I don't agree with the language about this being dripped out. There is an enormous amount of information.
Well, Mark
that
Butler,
has been
every
provided.
week there's another announcement. We're still waiting for the mental health announcement, for example, the aged care announcements today, emergency department announcement over the weekend. That's being dripped out, isn't it?
Well, we think the staging of these announcements, which is the language I'd prefer, the staging of this announcement is very important because getting the foundations of the governance and funding responsibilities right, as we think we have in the National Health and Hospitals Network Plan, is a very important base from which to talk about new investments, whether it's for the 1 million Australians suffering from diabetes, the emergency department announcement you talked about that the Prime Minister made over the weekend, or this aged care announcement. They all need to be considered. They're all very significant announcements in and of their own right, and to lump them all on the public or the premiers or health professionals all on one day, I think would have been completely unrealistic and impractical. So what we're doing is we're being very upfront, particularly with the premiers and the health ministers before the COAG meeting next week, with all of the new investments we think can flow if we get the funding and governance responsibilities right, as we think we have in the National Health and Hospitals Network Plan.
Mitch Fifield, let's bring you in. Of course, it's a bit difficult for the Coalition to engage in this debate when we still don't know what your plan is and what you would do differently. It's pretty hard to argue with extra, aged care places and shorter emergency waiting times and the like. How do you rate these recent announcements, and do you think it'll be enough to get the premiers on board at next Monday's COAG meeting?
Well, we're not entirely clear whether what the government is announcing today is an aged care plan to improve aged care, or if it's an aged care plan to take pressure off public hospitals and to help the Prime Minister in selling his public hospital plan. One of the difficulties is the way that these particular programs are announced. We have them briefed off to the papers, so we have a little bit in the papers this morning. We have Justine Elliott, the Aged Care Minister, on AM this morning giving a very garbled and convoluted explanation of what the plan is. No doubt later today we, along with the state premiers, will actually find out the detail of this plan, so we don't have the benefit of it. But it goes to the heart of how this government is managing this aged care, this health program. They're not putting all the cards on the table at the outset so that the state premiers can properly assess what the Prime Minister is proposing for health. They're not putting all the cards on the table so that the opposition can properly assess what the Prime Minister is proposing for health. They're dribbling it out, announcing measures for hospital emergency rooms, announcing measures for people with diabetes, and now we have this announcement in relation to aged care. If the government was serious about having a genuine discussion with the premiers, if they were serious about having the opposition being in a position to take a look at what they're proposing, they would release everything at once, as we did with the new tax system, the GST. We didn't dribble it out. We put all the cards on the table at once so people could properly assess. One thing I think people should be very concerned about is if you thought Peter Garrett was bad in pink bats, just wait till you get a look at Justine Elliott in charge of aged care. I think there are very good reasons to have concern about having all of Australian aged care under the control of Justine Elliott.
Mark Butler, criticism